Here we go. This is it. It's time for Rocky 4, my favorite film in the whole franchise. Okay. Alright. No tricks. Let me just. Sorry, that just tends to happen. Get a little bit too excited for when talking about Rocky 4. So, yeah, let's talk about the movie. Rocky 4 was released in 1985 and was the most over the top of the series, gosh. It also was the one that got the worst reception at the time. Despite being the highest grossing film of 1985, it didn't matter as many people were mixed on it. Some loved it, some hated it, and others were more in the middle. However, after Rocky 5 came out, people changed their minds on this film faster than people changed their minds on Marvel after Deadpool and Wolverine came out. Actually, that doesn't work because look at the year discrepancy between this and Rocky 5. Like 1990, 1985, and then Deadpool and Wolverine. People got back on board with Marvel 2 years after they fall down on their face. 3 years. So, not as short. What the hell am I talking about? Anyways, I think it's personally my favorite film in the whole franchise. Which is weird because usually fourth movies have a reputation for not being the best. Indiana Jones 4, Airport 4, which is my favorite bad movie of all time. What else? There's a few others. Obvious one. Transformers 4, Terminator 4, Pirates 4, etc. Enough stalling. Let's get to Rocky 4. The film follows Rocky Balboa. Who do you think plays him? Who's retired from boxing after Clubber Lang. He isn't in this film, so who plays him doesn't matter. However, a new challenger approaches. Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren. Is that how you pronounce his name? I'm not too sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. A Russian boxer who has superhuman strength that definitely is not from steroids. Not in the slightest. Apollo, do you need me to tell you who plays him? Thinks he can beat Drago, but spoilers, when that ends in disaster, Rocky vows revenge against Drago by fighting him in Russia on Christmas, which makes this a Christmas movie. To Adrian, seriously, you can look it up, dismay. Rocky has to train the hardest he ever has in order to not fall the same fate as Apollo. As you can see, there are some political agendas being spurted out by this film, although I don't think they're obvious enough. Let's have Rocky give a speech at the end, basically bringing peace to the USSR and the US and ending the Cold War once and for all. Yeah, when I said this was the most over the top in the franchise, I fucking meant that. This film is so bat crazy. Although, like I said in my previous review of Rocky 3, this isn't the goofiest. It's still pretty goofy and crazy, but it isn't completely goofy. You can say this has the worst tone discrepancy in the franchise, but the film isn't as drastically dramatic as the others. And by the others, I mean Rocky 3. Spoilers if you haven't seen this movie for some damn reason, but there is a scene where Apollo is fighting Drago and he puts up this massive entrance extravaganza with a song sung by James motherfucking Brown. Reverend Cleophas James is in a Rocky film. Hell yeah. It's a great scene, especially because Apollo fucking dies a few minutes later. What the hell? Yeah, where the hell did that come from? I think this has to be the most drastic tone change in the series. But to my and probably your surprise too, I think it actually works. Many people hated this movie because they killed off Apollo. They hated this because they gave him some character development in the third film. So to kill him off like this was a massive surprise. And to most people, not a very good one. No, it wasn't a very pleasant surprise. However, this works with Apollo's character. The main theme of this film is change. Rocky and Apollo have different ideas of not changing. Rocky wants to retire and live his life. Apollo doesn't want to get rid of the glory days. This, of course, backfires horribly. Another bit of change in this film is a change of sports. Drago is the first Soviet boxer in professional boxing, which is a big change in the sports world. And, of course, we can't forget about the speech at the end of the film that I mentioned earlier. This is one of the cheesiest, corniest, and it may be greatest speeches I've ever seen. I love how over the top the reception to it is. I mean, it is followed by one of the greatest songs ever made, Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty. This song also appears in one of the 49 training montages for the film, which are also masterfully edited, choreographed, and shot. The music, although not as iconic as the first three, is badass and 80s as hell. I love 80s music. Burning Heart, Survivor, and No Easy Way Out, Robert Tepper, are both fantastic songs in and of themselves. Every time I listen to this soundtrack, I get so pumped. I'm ready to lift a building. In fact, that's what I'm going to do after this review. I'm going to lift a building that's 500 times heavier than I actually am. Trust me, I'm pretty heavy. This is going to be a massive challenge. I think I might lift the Burj Khalifa. That's what I'm going to lift. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a wonderful moment. Hopefully I won't die. The only problem I have with this otherwise perfect movie is the pacing. Oh boy, the pacing. The pacing is the thing that makes or breaks a movie for some people, including myself. Your movie should either have good pacing or only good pacing. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that the pacing defines what a movie is. It's the one thing that's most important. If you have bad pacing, either it's too boring or it's too fast, then you have failed. Story and characters don't matter. I mean, they do, but not as much. If your pacing sucks. Speaking of pacing, like I said, the pacing is not very good. Not that it's too slow, it's because it's too fast. This movie is only 90 minutes, and it feels like 30, which isn't exactly a good thing. I want this film to go on forever. But I think this probably should have been like the third film where it was 100 minutes long. Or 105 minutes. Like something between the first two, which are 2 hours long, and the third film, which is 100 minutes long. Something in between that. 110 minutes, I guess, but I don't use that runtime anymore. Not like Sing 2 has an hour and 50-minute runtime. Don't look that up, it's not true. No. Anyways, as I was saying, the pacing rushes through what should have been very powerful and important scenes, and some scenes are even skipped. I'm sure this is something the director's cut fixes, but there isn't any easy way to find that cut of the film, so I won't comment on it. I really want to watch that director's cut, but as I said, I can't find it anywhere. I only have the fourth film on DVD, so that's really all I can do. One of the scenes that is cut out, but in the director's cut, is a board meeting with Rocky and some other people talking about the possibility of him fighting Drago, because in the movie, after Apollo's funeral, it directly cuts to him and Drago having a press conference with Rocky announcing he's going to go to Russia to fight Drago and beat his ass. But in the director's cut, they do show him actually talking to some people about, actually doing this. And of course, I'm probably sure that they're all like, oh, you can't fight him, but, movie has to happen, so they just let him do this anyway. But, yeah. I also have a problem with the robot in this. Yes, you heard me correctly, there is a robot in this. She sucks. She drags in every scene she's in. And I'm calling it a she because it has a female voice, and Polly, R.I.P. Brooke Young, gives it and I can't believe I'm saying this, sexy female voice. And I hate it. Thanks, Stallone! Which, yeah, Stallone wrote and directed this as with the others, and shock, surprise, surprise, his directing hasn't gone any better. This was the same year he was in the other sequel film that he made, First Blood Part 2. It's just such a bad movie. So just by itself, it would be good, but because it takes a likable and interesting character and messes it up, it just sorry, back on topic. If there's one thing I want to think about when watching a Rocky film, it's Polly getting railroaded by a robot. Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Stallone, once again for this wonderful plot point that was totally needed in a Rocky film. Anyways, before I give my final review, I need to show you something. I hope I don't get a copyright claim for this. So this is the DVD menu of Rocky 4. And as I mentioned in one of the previous 3 Rocky episodes, I don't know which one it was because, of course, I don't. I mentioned the DVD menus and how the first film doesn't. Well, this is a DVD menu of the 4th film, and, of course, is my favorite. Usually the DVD menu for 2, 3, and 5 have the typical Rocky theme, but because this one is different, this has a different Rocky theme, where, if you hear it, that's all I can play. I don't want to get shot down by the copyright monsters. They'll probably shoot me in the head for this, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is, the music in this film is fantastic, and they reflect that in the DVD menu where they play the other theme from the movie. And of course, like the design of the whole thing, it's just a great, fantastic DVD menu. Anyways, this movie is fantastic. It's everything you can want in a sports drama movie. This can almost be considered a sports comedy, but of course, there are still dramatic moments. It is still a very good film. I don't think it's perfect, but I'll put it in the same boat as the first and the second. Amazing editing, perfect cinematography, brilliant music, great acting, sharp writing, and fun directing. The pacing and robots are a bit off, but this is still my favorite film in the entire franchise. Objectively, it isn't the best. Like, I still think Rocky 1 and 2 are better, because, you know, they take themselves a bit more seriously. This film is basically just a fantasy, but it's my favorite because it's the film that helped me introduce myself to the Rocky franchise. This film is more important to me than all the others combined, which is why I think it's my favorite. Not objectively the best, but in terms of my own tastes and desires, that sounds very wrong. My own tastes, this is my favorite. 9.5 out of 10. Anyway, so which film in the franchise am I reviewing next? Dun dun dun. RichTRM was so demoralized he didn't do an ending skit and didn't lift a building. How tragic.